What's good, people? Tunji again from Ceasar Graphix. This is what we're going to be doing today. And without any further ado, let's jump into today's tutorial. Alright, so let's create a new document. So I'm going to go to File, so select New. So for this project, I'm going to be using 800 by 800. So I'm going to call this Christmas. Let me just go poster. 300 is fine for me, and I'm going to click on the Create button. So first, I'm going to create a new layer. So I'm holding on Alt and I'll click, and I'll call this BG. Then I'm going to fill this with my foreground color, my background color. So if I double click on it, you can see the code right here. Alright, so I'm just going to click OK, and I'll hit Control Backspace, and then I'll create a new layer, and I'll select the brush tool. Alright, so I'll select the brush setting up button here. So I'll choose this option, uncheck this. So I'm going to increase the size of my brush. Alright, and I'm just going to click now I'm applying the foreground color now, so I'm just going to click once. Alright, and I'll bring out the transform adjustment, which is Ctrl T or Command T for Mac users, and I'll scale this real big like so. Now the next thing I'm going to do now is to bring in my guide. Alright, so I need to draw my guide. I'll go to the shape tool right here, and excuse me, so I'll be using the triangle shape tool here. So just in case you don't have the list of shapes I have here, simply click on this gear icon and then select all, and then you have all the shapes on your screen. So now I'm just going to collapse this, and I'll just draw a triangle shape like so on my screen. Alright, actually I don't want it too big, so I'm just going to stop right here like so. And the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to create a new layer, and I'll lock this layer. So I'm just going to call this stroke. Okay, so next I'm going to bring in I'm going to use my pen tool to draw the part on my screen. So I need to zoom in so I can see what I'm doing clearly. So I'll start from here. Alright, then I'm just going to click and drag like so, and just going to click and drag like so. Then you can drag here, we can drag here, drag here. So if you don't know how to use the pen tool, I would advise you go online and watch tutorial on how to use it. Okay, then I need to fine-tune this, so I'm just going to click on the direct selection tool. So I'm just going to push this up like so. Okay, so I need to change this to white. Alright, so I'll select brush. Alright, and make sure this is checked, and I'll make sure this is set to pen tilt. The size of my brush should be something around 9, I guess. Yep. And the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to go to my direct selection tool, and I'm going to right click on it. I'll select stroke path, and if this is the first time, if this is the first time you're using this, you're going to be on this option. So change this to brush and make sure this box is checked, and I'm just going to click OK, and you see I have this. Now I'm going to hit enter. Alright, and I'm cool with this. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to go to my Path tab. Now if you don't have your Path tab active like mine, simply go to Windows and then check the Path option right here. So now, and yeah, so I'm going to create a new Paths layer like so, and I'll make sure I'm on this layer, and I'm going to drag down like so, and I'm going to go to my pen tool again. I'm just going to draw another part on that same part that I drew previously, and I'm going to stop here like so. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to deselect this. All right, so to deselect this, I'm going to click on this, deselect, then click again, and I'm going to continue. Now if I don't deselect, my parts will give me this continuous drawing, which I don't want. So if I don't deselect and I want to draw another line here, this is what I'll get, and that's not what I want. So I'm just going to hit Ctrl Z to go back, click on the direct selection to click again, and I go to the pen tool again, and I'm just going to draw another part somewhere here. All right, nice. Then I'm just going to select the direct selection tool, click on any empty area, drag down, go to the layers tab, and then create a new layer. So I'm just going to call this stroke 2, and I'm going to select OK. Now I'm just going to right click, and my brush setting, everything is still fine. I'm okay the way they are. Okay, you know what, I need to just reduce the size a little bit. Let's just use something around let's say 5. All right, I'm just going to go back to my pen tool now. Always make sure you're on your pen tool where you're trying to apply this stroke part, and every other setting is fine. I'm just going to hit OK, and I have this. So if I hit enter now, you see I have this effect around my part. So now I'm going to hide this. I'm just going to delete it. I don't need it anymore though, so I'm just going to delete it. And then the next thing I'm going to do is to create another part again, and I'm just going to call this dust parts. All right, and I'm going to hit enter. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to go to my brush setting again, and this time I'm going to use another type of brush. All right, I'm just going to use another type of brush, which is this. So I'm going to reduce this. I need to push this back, and the size needs to go down. Shape dynamic should be on pen tilt. Nice. So I'm just going to push this to about let's say 9, or should we just say 9 is fine. Well, let's just make it 11. All right, so now I'm going to activate the parts, this the very first part that I drew, and I am going to brush. Now I need to be on this type of brush, and I'm going to push this to about let's say 24. I want something I'll be able to see my brush. All right, so if you're using Photoshop CC 2019, I'm sure you're going to have this type of brush. Okay, so yeah, so I'm going to go to the my pen tool now, then I right click and then say stroke parts. If I hit OK now, I should have that part on my screen. So I have to move this out a little bit like so. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to create a new layer again, and I'll call this dust parts and 2. So for this one, I'm going to go to my brush tool again. Now for this one, I need to activate the same brush I've been using, and I'm going to uncheck this. So I'm going to reduce the size of this, and I'm going to push this out like so. So the scattering, I have to push this like this. So for this one, I need to just push this in. Then for this, I need to just, you know, make this be around 2. I mean 3. I mean 2. 2, sorry. And scattering should go down a little bit more about this point. All right. Good. So now I'm going to go to my pen tool again, right click, and I'm going to select stroke parts. Now hit OK. Nice. So this is it. So I need to apply it more, so I'll go to brush again, and I'll go to brush settings, and this time I'm just going to push this in like so, and I'll just hit enter to apply it. All right, so I'm going to hit I'm going to go to the path tab now and just take this out. So I'll hold on Control and click to create a macro selection, and I'll hit Control D or Command D to deselect, and I'm just going to push this out just a little bit like so. Just going to add the vector mask and select brush. Then I'll change this to this, push this back, remove this, reduce the size, and make sure this is set to black. And I'm just going to, then I'm just going to brush like so. Add the glow effect. I think I still need to add one more part to this project, so I'm just going to hold on Alt and click again, and I'll call this brush and path again. Alright, then I'm going to pick this brush. Alright, then I'll reduce the size. I'm going to reduce the size to about I can even rotate it just in case. Alright, so anytime you see me move my mouse to where my brush is, I'm just trying to see the look of the brush. So I'm going to select the direct selection tool, and then I'll go to stroke again, and I'll hit OK, and voila, so we'll have this. So I'm just going to push this down and then add vector mask, and so I'll reduce this to about let's say 8. Let's say 8. So I'm gonna go to pen tool, right click, and then add stroke paths, and I hit enter. And this time I'm just going to push this up, or let's just push it down. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is just click on this part here, and I'll create a new layer, and I'll select the brush option here, and I'm going to be on this brush, so I'm going to reduce the size of the brush, push this in, just somewhere here, and now I'm going to go to the pen tool, I'm going to right click, and it says stroke, and apply stroke. Good. So I'm just going to hit enter to take away the parts. Alright, so I'm just going to push this down to about let's say something around here like this. Then I'm going to create a new layer, so I'm just going to call this particles, or let me just say dust, so as to make it fast. Then I'm going to go to my brush tool again, reduce the size of this, excuse me, so I'm just going to select this and then reduce the size, and yeah, I'm going to leave it as 1. I'm okay with 1. Then I'll just start, you know, creating that dust effect by just clicking the parts you want it to be visible. So I'm just going to do it like this. Next is to add our glow effects to the brushes. So to do that, I'm just going to click on the first one, which is the one at the bottom, which is this, and I'll go to the FX button here and select outer glow. And yeah, it's going to be the color I'm going to use is I want something more orange, so I'm going to hit OK. Okay, so I'm going to select OK. Then I need to apply the same stroke effect to all the other layers. So to do that, I'm just going to hold on Alt, and I'll click on the effect name here, and I'll drag and release. Alright, so I'll do the same thing again, Alt, drag, release. Bring in the star. I'm just going to create a new layer, and I'll call this star. I'll hit OK. Then I'll fill this with black. So I'm just going to hit the D key on my keyboard and then hit Alt backspace. Then I'm going to select filter, render, and select lens flare. So this should be like this, and I'm going to select OK. Now it's looking too big. Alright, so I need to scale this down by hitting Ctrl T on my keyboard and scale it down like so. Alright, then I'm just going to say screen, and I'll position it where I want it to be, just like so. And I'm going to scale it down like that, like this. And I want this to apply to just only this layer, so I'm just going to click like so, and I'll come here and I'll pick this color right here, this color here, and I'm just going to say, before I say OK, I just need you guys to see the color code here. So I'm just going to double click on this. So this is the code for this color. Alright, and if I hit OK now, if I come here, you see the code for this one. So you can always copy it and then put it on your project. So I'm just going to double click here and then see the code for this one. So I'm just going to select OK, select OK again, and I'm going to go to my blend mode and choose soft lights. So I'm going to make a copy of this. Alright, and I'll hide the one at the top. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to draw the macro selection like so, and I'll hit Ctrl Shift I. For Mac users, you can always use Shift I for Mac users. So I'm just going to hit Alt backspace to fill this with the black color. Alright, and yeah, I think it's beginning to make sense now. So the next thing I'm going to do is to activate this, but we need to change this. Alright, so I'm going to click on this. So now I'm going to select Ctrl T on my keyboard, or Command T for Mac users, and I'm just going to scale this down like this. Alright, and I'm going to push this out like so. And I'm going to select Enter. Now I'm going to make so I need to clear some parts of this layer. Alright, so I'm going to select the add vector mask button here, select brush, and I'm just going to go to my brush settings option here, choose soft round brush. Yeah, every other setting is fine, and I'll increase the size of my brush and just push this in here, push this in here like so. Alright, now make sure this is set to black, because if this is not black, it's not going to work. So I'm just going to do that, and then I'm going to make a copy of this, hit Command T on my keyboard, or Ctrl T for Windows users. So I'll hit Enter to rotate it, and then I'll make a new copy again. Okay, and I'll hit Ctrl T again, or Command T for Mac users, and I'm just going to hit Enter. Then I'll make a copy of that same layer again, and I'll hit Ctrl T, but this time I'm just going to flip it. So I'm going to flip horizontal, and I'll hit Enter. Now this time I'm just going to reduce the size of these two layers. So I hold down Shift and select the two layers, and I'm just going to push this down like so. Alright, now I need to select all the layers because it looks as if my star is looking too big. So I'm just going to scale this down like this. Alright, now you see we're beginning to see this effect on the background, which is not nice. I'm just going to select this and I hit the brush tool, and I'll just brush the edges to make everything look the way it was before we reduce the size like so. Now I need to increase the color of my background, so I'm just going to select this my glow brush effect here, and I hit Command L to bring out the level adjustment, and I'm just going to push this to this direction like so. Now hit OK. I need to zoom out so I can scale it again, so I'm just going to scale it like this, and I'll hit OK. Now I'm seeing this circle effect around my lights. I think we need to take that out, so I'm just going to select this, and I'll go to I'm just going to hit Ctrl L on my keyboard to bring out the level adjustment on that layer, and I'm just going to push this in like so, just to take out that circle effect around it. All right, so I want it to look a little more shiny, so I'm just going to push this in like this. All right, so I'm just going to hit OK. Now there's one last thing I want to do again, because looking at it now, you see the color of my light effect is different from the star. So to adjust this, I'm just going to hit Ctrl U on the star layer, and I'll check the colorize option here. All right, then I'll push this to the yellow parts like this, so I know my yellow color now is what, 48. So I'm just going to hit OK, and I'll apply this to all the other layers. Okay, this is it. Now the next thing we're doing is to drawing. I need to add some effect here. All right, just to add more life to this. So I'm going to create a new layer by holding down Alt and click, and I'll call this Dodge. Or let me just give it heavy light. So I'm going to change this to color dodge, and I'll check the fill with color dodge neutral color black, and I'll say OK. Now I need to pick a color from here, so I'm just going to sample a color from here like so. Or do I just use this side? I need to push this to about this point here. Then I'll pick a color. I'm going to my brush tool now, and I'll use this type of brush. Push this out a little bit and use this, and this time I'm just going to use the pen pressure. You know what, I'm just going to change this to, I need to use this option here. Now I'm using a graphics tablet, and that's why I can check that option up there. And if you don't have a graphics tablet, you can easily go through the steps we use with the drawing of the strokes. So I need to draw down, so I'm just going to create this effect right here. So for here, I just need to draw this. Just need to come here. So I'm just going to hide this, and I'll go to the part tab here, and I'll create a new layer. I need to drag this above all the other layers. So I'll set the pen tool, and I'm just going to click here and click here. All right, and the next thing I'll do is to create a new layer by holding down Alt and then say dust drop, and I'm just going to say OK. Now this set needs to be set to white. All right, and go to my brush tool, go to the brush settings here, choose this, and I am going to add space. Push this down, add more space. All right, go to scattering, and just add a little bit scattering, and then this should be on pen tilts. Okay, and I'm going to just add reduce the space like so. This should be on 4, and I'll go to my pen tool now, right click and select stroke path again and say OK, and we should have this. All right, so I'm just going to position this here, then I'll bring it back again. I still need to add more, or you know what, better still, let's just okay, so I'm just going to select my pen tool again, create a new layer, go to the brush settings, and this time I'm just going to reduce it to something around 2. All right, 2 is fine, and I'll add more space. So right click, stroke, and we have this. All right, we have this. So I'm just going to use this. Then I need to push this above all the layers. Then I'm going to select this now, go to my brush tool, pick this option, put the space back, reduce the size of the brush, remove scattering, and yep. Then I'm just going to sample a color from here like I've been doing, Or you know what, let's just switch the color and now use this shade of orange, and so I need to put this in the same folder where we have the other strokes to have the same color like this, and create a new layer, just shine. Now select brush, make sure this is set to white or something between white and orange, and I'm just going to start brushing. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is to create a new layer, and this time I'm just going to call this flare, and I hit enter, and I'll fill this with black. So I'm going to hit D on my keyboard and fill it with black, and I'll go to filter, render, and then select lens flare. So I'll push this to this direction. Alright, I want to be able to see this effect here, so I'm just going to click OK, and I'll change this to screen. Alright, then I'll hit the command T on my keyboard, and I need to push this out of my screen. Alright, so I'm going to push this here like so, push this down just a little bit, and I'll hit enter. Now this time I'm going to go to filter and select, go to block gallery and select field blur. Alright, so I think I prefer 15 the way it is, so I'm just going to hit OK. Excuse me. Alright, then I'm going to create a new layer now, and then call this noise. So for this layer I'm going to choose 80 80 80 80, and I'll hit OK. Then I'll fill the layer with the gray color that I just created, and I'll go to filter, noise, and say add noise. So my noise setting should be something around 21, and I'll check the monochrome option like so, and I'll hit OK. Now this time I'm just going to select soft light, and I'll reduce the opacity to something like this. Alright, and this is the second to the last thing I'm going to do. So I'll go to hue adjustment, and I'm just going to crank the saturation up to just add more color, more depth to the color. Alright, so I am going to push it to about this point. I think I need to make it just 8, and I am going to stop here. Okay, so if you enjoyed this tutorial, guys, please and please remember to hit the like button, and if you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe so as to be notified when I post my next tutorial. I love you guys, and peace out.